All right, everyone, it's time for an April 2nd garden update because a lot has actually already been accomplished thanks to the warm spell before. You can look at all these. This is debris from the woods. There are some twigs and pine needles, but it's mostly deciduous leaves, and I'm going to be mixing this in with the hay that used to be on these beds, which I've taken off. I'm going to mow around in that, literally mix it all together, mow it. And what I'm going to do is break it down partially, then add it to the beds. I'm going to be doing lasagna gardening, but only on these back 5, because these, and they're, almost thawed now, these are going to be raised up by about 8 inches. So there's going to be a layer of the straw, leaf, and twig mix. Now, I know about carbon locking. Don't worry, I will be obviously soaking them down with some good low-level fertilizer. I like to use the Poseidon's, the organic. I'm going to do that a couple times. I'll use 2 containers of the kelp meal, basically, and just soak them really well. The process of doing this, the actual mulching, this was added just today, so it's a little bit a little bit brighter than the rest, is getting on towards completion. I've still got to remulch that last path there, because there are a few leafy plants that did get up through. Basically, I just want to suppress them more or less. It doesn't have to be perfect. The thing is, a lot of this mulch is going to be raked to the side because, I'm going to be expanding this bed here. This one will be expanded a little bit. That'll be shortened up. These 2 beds here will not be raised. My goal, because of the amount I owe on taxes, I'm not going to be able to raise and complete everything this year. I wanted to expand, add a rotary composter and stuff. At the very best, I'll be able to do everything by the end of fall. So, because Uncle Sam wants blood money to go, bomb you many children. So I'm going to need to just complete the mulching, raise these 5 beds, and because I'm doing lasagna gardening, it'll be a little bit cheaper. It'll also be really good. It'll last for years. That stuff breaks down. It'll feed worms. I'm going to be doing all sorts of stuff. But I need to do 2 beds. This bed here, and this one I'm thinking, because they're slightly different shape than these, will be the cold weather crops. Once they're raised and fertile and everything, and once the outer fence is guarded by those cinder blocks, now that the fence is complete, that goes down several inches into the soil, it's guarded by cinder blocks, I'm going to fill those with garden soil. I'm going to plant chamomile and catnip and all sorts of stuff and garlic bulbs there, actually. Get those out of the main garden here, and I won't need to have them here. Once the chamomile is around the garden, and in one of these, along with the herbs, this is going to be an herb bed. It's going to be much more room for the cold weather crops there. I want a couple good rows of cabbage. I want plenty of lettuce. Some extra, maybe some peas or something. And then I might conjoin a couple of these, raise them up a bit, and just have a bunch of corn. Have like a little mini path in between them so I don't compact the beds, just shorten it up. But the problem with that, of course, is crop rotation will be a little bit more difficult, so I'm not sure. I'll figure it out though, because I can fit 4, once I shorten up the rows in between the beds, I will be able actually to have 4 rows of corn in either of these, really, because I can always expand this out by almost 6 inches. The same is true of this and this one, and then all 3 of those I can rotate things regularly. But this is a garden update. The fence stood up to the snow, which was monstrous. But I do need to fortify it a little bit. And of course, these cinder blocks do need to go in. There are worms in the soil from having the straw and things. You can see some mold damage there. I'm going to take care of them by planting plants that they don't like. But I really do have to figure on the mulching. The mulching is priority number 1. And then raising these 5 beds is priority number 2. This is a lot of room. It's a fairly large garden area. And if the other beds aren't raised up this year, it's okay. Because I do want to expand. And what I'm going to do, actually, is the fence that right now is here is actually going to be around here. That is, I'm going to add an extra almost 10 feet of garden space width-wise. And so there are going to be 2 new beds there, 2 roughly square beds. The gate will be closer to the corner, and there will be a rotary composter, right about here. So a fairly good one. And I want to have not a shed, but I want to have a little area for some tools, maybe a little overhang, be able to put some of the hand tools under it. It'll look decorative. It'll be nice. I got to put the solar lights back out here. Most of them still work. They're actually pretty good. But right now the straw is just sort of laying in the paths. I got to rake that through and add it to all of this, and I'm going to do it all in one go. I'm going to dump it in those beds once they're raised, along with, there'll be an underside, a little bit of compost, some nitrogen. Soak it down good. Put this stuff in, again, soak it with fertilizer, probably twice. Then I'll add another layer of soil. I'm going to add some mushroom compost, sphagnum moss, garden soil, and then cow manure, and then give it one last soak, and it should be really, really rich. It's going to be the best soil I've ever worked with. It's going to be monumentally better than what I've got now, and even what I've got now is pretty good. Because it had that straw in it, it held up pretty good. It's nice and organic. It's still relatively dark even when it's dried out, which is actually a really good sign. Some of that straw is just, you know, in there still. I really don't care. So it's going to be a really good garden. And things right now, it's almost 50 degrees. It's actually fairly warm. About seasonal. For a long time, we had way more snow than we're supposed to have. That's about all. Peace out.